Alright, welcome to another episode of Write Once, Read Many. This time we will be covering 13.5 and 13.6. Just gonna let the speed draw start going a little bit. Try and get the link. Alright, the link is out there. Greg is in the chat now. There we go. Hey, Greg. Okay. So we can see Genesis carrying herself out of the up into the Taylor base room, I guess. And we get to see the abstract art that is described that Taylor's worried about. Boop. Boop. Alright. So, the audience participation reminder, come up with an alternative plan to Taylor's for attacking the 9. It can be serious, but joke answers are good too. And for themes this week, Greg says, proof positive that Genesis is also is a solo carry. Yes. Definitely. But I didn't really come up with themes that I wrote down. I forgot to go back to that after the chapter summary, so sorry, themes. I'm sure that people can imagine their own theme section. But kinda getting into 13.5. Taylor finds a luckily alive Rachel with her hurt and de-transforming dogs. Bitch isn't very grateful and asks, what the fuck are you doing here? But does not reject Taylor's help with her dogs. Also, this is the first time in a while that I've gotten a Vic script, so I've got, I'll probably be saying like Taylor where I'd normally write Skitter. Stuff like that. Hey, Val. Anyway, so, they rescue Bentley out of his decaying dog sack, and bitch gets even more irritated when Taylor asks if he's okay. Rachel says that, Taylor thinks she cares about her, I think that she meant to write, Rachel asks Taylor if she thinks she cares about her after what Burn Scar said, and she's going to use it to manipulate her, but Taylor says that she wants to help her through this, and Rachel loses it when Taylor implies that Rachel would go along with the tests. Taylor tells Rachel that she relates to her and that she's been hounded and hunted at school, that she knows what she's been through isn't as bad as Rachel has. Vale says, I think the theme of this section is simply ultraviolence works. Yes. Greg says, bitch / Bojack, what are you doing here? Exactly. So, Rachel rejects this, but Taylor finishes by saying that Rachel needs the team and needs her. She might not be Rachel's friend, but Rachel is hers. Taylor starts listing their similarities and trails off before saying they both struggle socially. I want to take these fuckers down, no holds barred, and we're going to need your help if we want to pull it off. Screw it going on the defensive. You had me at no holds barred, she growled, rising from her crouch. Yeah. Also, you know, because of Vic writing, I had thought to myself, like, I may switch in the near future. I'm probably going to stop just calling her Skitter all the time when she's in costume. They very much have, you know, blurred the lines the whole time. Probably just start calling her Taylor for sake of ease, because that's how I think of her anyway. I think Taylor, Rachel, Tattletale, and then I usually think of Gru/Brian in like a modular sense based on whether he's in or out of costume. Taylor's always just Taylor, though. Anyway. So Vic said they should know at this point that a no holds barred will always get Rachel on board. Greg says, Taylor, Skitter, you can split the difference and call her Titter. I'm sure that I'll do that from now on. With that decided, Taylor and Rachel head back to Taylor's base. The girls separated to address their respective injuries, and Genesis arrives, carrying herself with one of her generations. She tells Taylor she couldn't get the major fires out and asks what they're doing next. When Taylor tells her they're planning an attack on the Nine, Genesis is mildly mortified. Vale says, Gru, Tattletale, Rachel, Lisa are their names in my head. No clue why. And then corrected, not Lisa, Taylor. So, yeah, Gru and Taylor. Well, I definitely think Regent instead of Alec as well. And I think I mostly think Aisha instead of Imp. I usually don't think Imp when I think of her. Yeah, it's usually Aisha. And like with some of them, like Parian's always Parian. You know. Anyway. Greg usually calls her Imp in his head. I don't know. And then for Vale, it's the opposites. Always Imp, always Alec. So, yeah, I think we all have our own deep-seated feelings and reads about the names. They're all sort of subconscious on how we think about them. I think. Anyway, here we are. Boop, boop, boop. Taylor explains that she wants to catch them off guard and asks Genesis about their abilities' limitations. Genesis explains her power more in depth, and Taylor is like, damn, I could do so much with her power. Which is true. People are always like, oh, Taylor, you're always overestimating yourself. And I'm like, I don't know. Taylor's pretty good at this whole thing. I believe her. Let's see here. So the chat's saying trivial differences and fan opinions. Time to go to war. And Vale says ultra violence again. Yes. But then Genesis catches Taylor looking at her legs and tells her to get it over with and ask. Taylor sheepishly asks if she became disabled because of her power, but Genesis claims that if anything it was the other way around. Well, that's not ominous. While Taylor ponders about the sheer power of the travelers and how they must have come about, more of the team arrives at her hideout. Everyone joins Taylor in the room except for Tattletale, who joins remotely with Coil. They tell the team that Skitter wants to remove a tester, and the team is like, surprised Pikachu face. It's 0:, but I associate that emoticon with surprised Pikachu face. Vale says, I did see ages ago someone did an analysis of Tattletale versus Lisa in the story, and apparently Tattletale is used almost every time. That is likely part of why. Yeah, probably. And then this is where it slips back into being me. Skitter lays out the idea of that they need to surprise the Nine and make sure they don't get to fight on their own terms, Eva. Comparing her group to the Nine, she says that they'll need to use unpredictable, calculated recklessness. You will have my assistance. Jack Slash needs to die, and you'll have all of my resources should you move forward. So, yeah, Coil's like, I'll go all out, you go all out, it'll be great. Skitter makes sure Bitch is on board as well, and then tells Sundancer and Ballistic that they're going to need to stop holding back. After a brief silence, Ballistic says he thinks he can, if it's against the Nine. Trickster points out that Sundancer has killed before, using her civilian name, Mars. They're kind of like, they're kind of letting things slip a little bit, you know? Just casually dropping your old names and stuff. She retorts that it was accidentally, and she doesn't seem up for this high-intensity stuff. In Vic's words, she's a beta. I can't believe that Victoria didn't get to that moment to, roundly abuse Sundancer in the comments. But Ballistic tries to tell her that they're the worst the planet has to offer, and Skitter says that they'd be saving hundreds of lives from the people that they'll kill in the future, which is maybe underestimating things. It seems like the Nine kill, like, a lot of people all the time. Anyway, Sundancer still isn't convinced, but they move on. Lisa asks what they'll need, and first they need to find the Nine. I was slipping back and forth here for some reason. I must have been on a speed writing in this moment, but I wrote both Lisa and then Tattletale in the same extended run-on sentence. So Tattletale's going to work on that side of things. Drew says that they all need to sleep before going to fight, and Skitter agrees to this before going back to plan. She's like thinking to herself that she's lying to him. It's crazy. Skitter asks if they could deploy Noelle, and Trickster gives them like a hard no. She turns to Coil for guns and a bunch of explosives. Tattletale's like, hold up. And Skitter says that they all are going to go all out. She's going to use her full power. They just got to do their thing. They can't let the rules of the Cape game get in the way of murder. You know how it goes. So, I have the Trickster line. Okay, they broke the unspoken rules between capes, so there's no reason to actually follow the rules. Sure, but do you actually have a plan? And, yeah. So, we don't know that Taylor necessarily has a plan. But, she does get them all to... She, like, specifically says that the plan changes. It's more of a overall strategy, is how I would describe it. Because it's like... Every little point of it has, like, a pivot point off-ramp. So, to call it one plan is a little narrow. But I get what he's saying. And then we have a whole thing about her costume here. There were some, it's my bugs had finished connecting the tattered pieces of fabric. It wasn't pretty, but a few tugs to test it showed it was as sturdy as anything I'd made. I draped it over my lap. Until my legs healed, I'd be wearing my new costume for my upper body with the tattered cloth as a skirt to protect my burned legs. And I feel like there's always sort of a costume language, and this, I mean... There's got to be something here. She uses her power to reform her costume. Again, the costume is usually like a sense of self thing into like a new format that can protect her in the short term until she heals herself for real. Greg says, detailed specific plans don't really work in micro anyways. You go in with goals and tactics and improvise them together to meet the changing circumstances. Oh, yeah. And, so she lays out her like strategies and ideas after the chapter ends so that we can see everything as it unfolds. And the way that she describes it is, then I told them what we'd be trying to do. Yeah, so it's like exactly what Greg's saying, where they're laying out like goals and tactics, trying to do. So some final chapter thoughts. This is good. Really good way to get them from the point of, I mean, it's like a tight chapter. The speed at which they go from the previous battle ending to like the planning, and then we skip time after this one to lead into like the fight itself. Like it's just kind of, I don't know, that this part is so dense with everything. They've got, you know, bitches' reactions and everyone's different willingness to participate, both in like the personal danger and like the moral stakes of killing people. And we have like, we see what people are willing to commit to it when we see like Coyle willing to shell out just anything. Vale says, plan 1, more bees. And Greg thinks this is a good plan. I agree. It's you know, if you just add enough bees, I think you could win a lot of fights. A lot of fights there. The situation is often improved with the addition of yet more bees. It has a history of success. Taylor is a classic bee student. Yes. Got all A's, called me Ace. Got all B's, called me Buzz. So, I don't know. Good chapter. But I shall be moving on to 13.6. On the rooftop, Gru is checking in with the team on walkie-talkie. They're going to suddenly strike and enact a plan. They cook up and... let me think. When is... The art is pretty late in the chapter. What I think I'm going to do is change it like halfway through, even before we get to the scene it's of. Yeah, I'll figure it out. Because otherwise the art's just like near the very end, so. Anyway, so they're going to suddenly strike and enact these this so-called plan they cooked up and discussed off-screen. Skitter was the one to come up with their overall strategy, but Gru's going to be the battlefield commander for the Travel-Siders during this mission. She prefers him being in charge here, which makes sense given the issues she's been having feeling responsible for all the things happening to the people around her. Skitter she's looking through a pair of binoculars at the 9, and all of them are there except for Burn Scar. While they're walking forward as a group, Jack is casually trying to cut up anyone that he sees in front of him, and he's not pursuing anybody, just sort of like, if you don't get behind cover, he'll kill you without it being a big old thing. So, Skitter is focused on Cherish specifically, looking for any sign that she's noticing them. So far, she's just looking at each of Jack's victims in turn as she passes them on the street. Says she's very dispassionate and so forth. So Skitter's itching to move in and save people that Jack has slashed, but she knows that they can't move in yet or they'll miss their opportunity. At this point, she begins thinking about the plan. They need to stay as far away as possible while still having visual contact with the Nine and the other teams. They have like 2 groups on dogs and 1 group on Genesis, and a bunch of equipment and stuff strapped to each additional ride that they have. So Skitter spares a glance at Mannequin before looking back at Cherish, who seems to be enduring some sort of long lecture from Shatterbird. They're about to lose sight of them, and so the group that Skitter's in moves up. We've got them divided up. Tattletale on comms. Squad 1 is Bitch, Skitter, and Sundancer, who are riding on Bentley. Squad 2 is Gru, Ballistic on Sirius, and Squad 3 is Trickster, Regent on Genesis. And I had said here, I bet I know which squad Vic wants to be on. But after moving up, they reestablished line of sight with the enemy because Crawler's so easy to spot. The 3 groups are positioned at 3 points about 1,000 feet from the Nine in different directions. To the right and behind them and to the left, respectively, for the 3 squads. The 9 are headed down, or they're headed toward Dolltown, which we already know about from Arc 9. It's the area that Parian has set up, and it's one of the only safe zones in the city that isn't controlled by the Undersiders, Travelers, General Alliance. And the 9 are seemingly trying to bait out heroes while they're on their way there. Even just having to wait a brief time, like Skitter's hero instincts keep trying to pull her into a confrontation to save people from Jack. Trickster tells Gru to get into position fast because he thinks that the 9 are going to stop at the border of Dolltown. And much like Skitter, Trickster's got really good cape instincts, so he's right. Vale says, if we got to choose teams, I would always want to be on Team Oliver. Sit in the secure base and don't do anything is a great team. Yeah. So anyway, Skitter sees the line Parian made to mark her territory and checks in with Trickster. He says that he has visual confirmation on Squad 2 that they're not in danger. Skitter thinks a bunch of paranoid thoughts about Burn Scar popping out at them and about how Jack or Shatterbird could kill them in a second. Then Gru gives the order to set up for the attack. So the 3 girls hop down from Bentley and unstrap some stuff from the boxes they brought, kind of do some setup, and then they sort of get back on the dog. Skitter thinks about how she's running on adrenaline and industrial strength painkillers, so that's always a good sign. Because of the deep flooding, there aren't that many people around here. Sundancer fires up a little sun, and Skitter is spotting for her. Trickster and Regent are watching from a roof, and Genesis has begun to dissolve so that she can make the form they need in the next phase of the plan. But something is wrong, because Gru and Ballistic are arguing. Ballistic isn't willing to use his power to rocket some warheads over at Cherish, and he's supposed to be the one to take her out. And that's supposed to be like their initial surprise attack, so that even if they mess up everything else, it'll pave the way for future attacks. They don't say it here explicitly, but I think that you can read between the lines in this section and see this as Ballistic being subtly influenced by Cherish from a distance. They don't say she has no power at a distance, just that it's not as strong. And because I think she's kind of slow playing her own thing. We'll see it in a minute, but she's perfectly aware of like how willing they are to kill her at a given time. So Trickster tries to cut through and get Ballistic to fire. When it doesn't work, he resorts to bringing up their sort of team promise that they keep referring back to. Ballistic is still on the "I can't kill her, she's still a person" thing. And Regen is like, nah, you should though. And throws out some of the heinous crimes from her past. Stuff that she did before when he was still with her and the dad's crew. Vale says, "Oh, 100%. I read that Cherish is affecting them. Sundancer seeing a friend too? Question mark. Yeah. Just a moment. Okay, so got here. The 9 are moving on now, passing the border, and Ballistic works up the nerve, but sensing this happening, Cherish runs to the rest of the 9 yelling. Sundancer sends her son in, trying to go the long way around and cut off the 9 from getting into Dolltown as Trickster swaps Cherish with a corpse from Jack's earlier attacks. And he shoots her before she can even move, apparently blowing a hole in her shoulder, as we'll see later. Skitter is very displeased with Ballistic. Trickster doesn't have line of sight to swap Jack. Sundancer is being pretty wishy-washy about the whole plan, like Ballistic was as well. Hit the others. You mean kill them. Kill them then. Yeah, she's being hardcore. So Skitter proceeds to lie to Sundancer, saying that there aren't any civilians in the area she's burning. The 9 are all starting to do their thing, moving in various directions. Hackjob is grabbing up the wounded left by Jack and bringing them to Bonesaw, which is part of what fuels the lie in the first place, because Bonesaw is about to use these people in some nightmare tinker tech. She thinks, we'll never have another shot like this. She's very Star Wars pilled sometimes. And then she yells to Sundancer, no civilians, go! So, continuing to spot for Sundancer, who can't see the area, Skitter has to call out where to move the sun. Mannequin dashes away from it, but Siberian leaps through it and unfortunately manages to grab Jack and Bonesaw. I think that this was the end of Hackjob, though, so we can put one on Sundancer's scorecard. Did Taylor lie? Yes, she said there were no civilians, but there were definitely civilians because Hackjob was physically holding civilians and he got all burned up by the fire. Innocent shockface, says Vale. Well, someday you'll learn that Taylor, she lies to people. I don't know. As though he did not know. So Skitter reports to Tattletale, who says that they should assume they're all alive unless they get visual confirmation of the kill. I only am confirming Hackjob as being dead, from a standpoint of an outside observer. They don't know that. Yeah, she basically says all the stuff about Siberian being able to keep them in the fight, etc. So Crawler is nearly able to reach them when Trickster swaps him for a pickup truck several blocks away. And that falls off the side of the building, of course, rather than clinging on because it's not Spider Truck. Peter B. Parkin. Vale says, that could be a typo. Instead, I could say, wait, did Taylor speak? With the same result. The Venn diagram of Taylor speaks and Taylor lies, and Taylor thinks she is right, is a circle. Greg says, Taylor would struggle as a practitioner. Even lies to herself. So, I think that I think that because of the way that Taylor does it, she probably gets a lot of like, I think a lot of the stuff that she's saying is like technically correct, like most of the time, whenever she's speaking aloud. Um, and to a practitioner, technically correct, the best kind of correct. Um, um, anyway, although I guess she does lie sometimes when she's like doing banter with the heroes or whatever, but a lot of the time she'll just present information in a very disingenuous way. Um, Ballistic starts firing warheads at Mannequin, um, but then he can't see him past the smoke because of the detonations, so he can't sustain an attack. Um, I think this might be the last we see of Mannequin in this fight. I think he just slips away. Um, but Shatterbird pelts Gru and Ballistic with glass after that, and so he takes a shot at her, but she blocks it with a wall of glass. Vale says, I thought Taylor typed them and I had no idea I did it. I must have been listening too hard while I tried to type. That feels so weird, though. Huh. Oh yeah, the always lies thing from Pale. Sorry, I don't know why it took me a second to like connect the dots between those two thoughts, because the opossum thing um was pretty clear. Anyway, sorry, Vale. I fail to keep up with your humor sometimes. But Sirius gets moving, and Shatterbird notices Squad 1. Scooter sends her massed swarm at Shatterbird. She's not really using it to attack anyone else. It's like all being used as decoys or to attack. But she wants to draw her focus to them instead of Squad 2. Crawler gets swapped again, and tired of not getting to Gru and Ballistic, he heads for Sundancer's sun that he's a lot closer to. He just tries to charge through it. She's able to cancel out the sun just in time, so he doesn't actually hit it, and he nearly barrels his stupid ass into Siberian, which is kind of funny because that is something that could meaningfully hurt him for a split second. Of course, he'd heal it right back, but he nearly gets what he wants. But the three of them are just standing on the molten ground, being super immune to everything since, Siberian. For a moment, Skitter thinks that it's good that Siberian is focused on protecting the other two, except she just picks up her two teammates and heads for Trickster and Regent. Like, no big deal. So for various powers reasons, Siberian is exceptionally fast, like faster than most of the flyers, just by jumping around. Gru seems to be able to hold Shatterbird at bay for a moment because she can't affect glass that's already entered his darkness. And luckily for both of the boys, they're wearing very high quality, durable costumes. And I think all covering on both of them, because Ballistics is basically just armor. And then Gru has the spider armor underneath his like motorcycle leathers. So Bitch gets their mannequin setup ready where they are, and that's lowercase m mannequins in this case, because they have the plan with Trickster. Gru cancels his darkness as a signal, and Trickster teleports those two out for mannequins. Then himself and Regent out for two others, and so they've all rejoined with Squad 1, and the other two had left behind their boxes, which were filled to the brim with plastic explosives. So right as Crawler on one roof, I think. No, Crawler's not up there. Was anyone up there fighting Gru and Ballistic in close range? I guess not. Only Shatterbird, kind of, flying around in the sky. But anyway, Siberian, Jack, and Bonesaw were at the other one, and they all explode, but it doesn't do much other than knocking Shatterbird out of the air, unfortunately. This is one of those attacks. There are a lot of attacks in this sequence of, like, fights between the Travel-Siders and the Slaughterhouse 9, where they'll do, like, a big, like, play to get, like, an explosion or something, but fucking Siberian or Crawler just blocks it. It sucks. But, I mean, that is the whole team dynamic. That's the point of how they operate. But it's always, like, so close. That's always how I feel whenever they fail to explode someone. Anyway, so Skitter was hoping that they'd get pissed and sloppy, but seeing Crawler rejoin the Siberian who's walking out of the rubble, she sees Bonesaw and Jack's just loving it. He loves this situation. He's pretty much Palpatine with a different power set, so you know, he's cackling probably. Cherish is still on the ground, bleeding in a pile of rubble, and Shatterbird's picking herself up off the ground. Gru and Skitter put as many decoys as they can of their, two different powers. 7 of the Travel-Siders need to escape, but they only have 2 dogs to ride. And another problem that is kind of a complementary problem is that Shatterbird is flying toward them, but the other groups, the Siberian trio and Crawler, are faster than Shatterbird, so she's falling behind. So they wait until she's over a rooftop and swap Gru for Shatterbird. Actually, Skitter medium-heartedly offers to go, but Gru says that her legs are too injured, so she can't go and he'll have to do it. And Gru says that he's willing to break something when Trickster is saying he needs more time to line it up, which is maybe a bad omen since he does hurt his foot/leg landing. And yes. I'm going to switch the art now. Boop. So we'll start up that speed draw. Boop, 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 boop. Where are we? Shatterbird is in their midst now, and when she steadies her flight, Regent uses his power to send her smashing into like the corner of the building, and then she falls into the alley between. And Genesis is waiting down there with her new form, and they like jump down with the dogs, and Genesis slugs over top of Shatterbird and scoops like her into the Genesis body. Like always, I kind of pull the Genesis body out and talk about it in the power section. It's a cool description, but we'll just talk about it later. Shatterbird will not go quietly into that good night and is trying to cut her way out with her power. Skitter uses a bunch of poisonous spiders as leverage and makes it very clear that she's going to bite if Shatterbird doesn't stop. They kind of lash Genesis to the 2 dogs and pull her along like a weird chariot sled thing. Skitter is trying to make large-scale decoys in other places, like the crazy sled setup they have going on here. You got to imagine that this means that she's covering their group in enough bugs that you could look at a thing made of exclusively bugs and still think, yeah, similar enough. Before the 9 have a chance to get back to Cherish, the team need to scoop her up with the Genesis trap and bring her with them. Vale says she actually does bite many times as well. She's already bitten her a bunch of times, but I think the point is that she would have bitten her additional more times. Man, I love the color palette for this image, and I'll tell you, it's probably because I'm an autumn. This is a really good set of colors for me. And as we see, the final drawing is flipped because, as Vic has talked about before, sometimes she has to draw the whole thing and then flip it so her art's not too stale, because she always draws from one side, you know. But it's perfect because even though this scene is actually from at the base, I think, right here I had pulled out, Cherish, caught like glue, suffered an unfortunate few seconds of being dragged over the road's surface, and was then drawn into Genesis's bubble of a body. Vale says, what does that mean? You like autumn, or it's a personality thing? I've never heard I'm an autumn before. It's fashion, Vale. I'm an autumn. Fashion. Victoria Dallin would be, she'd be rolling her eyes right now. You've never heard someone say they're a winter, or a spring, or a summer? I guess far fewer people will claim they're an autumn, but I would argue that most people aren't autumns. Vale says, you are a fan of the Autumn Man Empire? No. It's a good enough joke, but no. Oh, Greg. Laughing in text. Let's see here. Boop, 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 boop. With Skitter's bug sensing and decoying abilities, they are able to get out of there, and we get a scene transition. They're in Coil's base, the one that Crawler had attacked the other night. Coil and Tattletale meet them as they bring in the prisoners. Coil had already set up a soundproof chamber thingy to cancel out Shatterbird's power, so they can keep her as a prisoner while Regent takes control of her with his power. Before putting her inside, they scan her to make sure she's not bringing in any Tinker Tech, etc., that they can easily find. And Regent is given a protective suit to wear while taking control of her, in case she manages to trick them somehow. These are smart moves. I approve. So, Skitter mentions large amounts of bug poison having been used as both a ticking clock that they can use against her and possibly something that will make Shatterbird desperate. Coil's people are on alert to stop anyone acting suspicious and just immediately all kill Cherish if something weird happens. Which is, that's smart. You gotta do that. Everyone, if anything happens, all of you shoot that person. But what if she was a Diclodius? Then it wouldn't matter. Sorry. I just thought of the stupid lab scene where they all keep shooting even though it just keeps giving the superpowered person more ammunition to fire back with. Coil says he doesn't have any countermeasures for Cherish, so they should just kill her generally. And then when he says this, Cherish knows what they're talking about, even though there's a soundproof barrier between them. Vale says, kill anyone who acts suspicious. They immediately shoot Coil. Taylor's true plan comes to the fore. Yes, no, well, that's why he didn't say kill anyone who acts suspicious. He said to take them out of action and for everyone to kill Cherish. I think you're supposed to protect the president style tackle the person who's acting suspicious. Anyway, boop, 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 boop. So, yes, so Skitter tries to keep it neutral and says that she'll let Coil kill Cherish, but she's not super into it either. Coil accurately points out that this is the fastest way to get rid of a tester, and Skitter pretty much says that she doesn't want to be the one to kill Cherish. So Skitter almost, Coil compliments Skitter, and it's like a pretty big compliment, I feel like. I'm gonna look it up, because it's like, maybe the biggest compliment. Eggs. Yeah. So he says, "Quite right. No, I think your service this morning has been exemplary." And then she still manages to keep her mouth shut about Dinah. Cherish raises her hands in a customary surrender gesture despite having a hole in her shoulder, and they let her out, and Genesis dissolves the form. So that's like, this is like the moment of dissolution, I would imagine, where she's falling onto the glass. And then she gets all cut up by the glass, as we see. But Cherish says something bomb necklace, and then she says there's no such thing as being too paranoid, and Tattletale disarms it like it's nothing. Vale says, "I am promoting Skitter to senior villain." Taylor sighs. Having lost the leverage of the bomb, Cherish drops some metaphorical bombs, saying that she made a deal with Imp, which is why she didn't alert her team about the whole like thing with the Undersider setting up. But then she was like, but it all got ruined when that guy got me with the teleport. But much more importantly, she tells them that her team got their hands on Gru. Dun, dun, dun! That's probably the worst thing that's happened to the team so far in the book. And then I pulled this quote, not the full quote, but partway through a paragraph. "You got Shatter and you got me. We're compromised. No way they're going to accept us back with open arms. They'd kill us first. So no, don't get your hopes up. My teammates aren't going to agree to a hostage exchange." Dun, dun, dun. I mean, even if they didn't have Alec's power, they still might kill them before letting them back in the group, just because, like, Jack is Palpatine, you know what I mean? So I'm not saying that he would definitely kill them, because whatever's most advantageous for him is, you know what I mean? But anyway. So, final chapter thoughts. This one's crazy. This chapter's fucking crazy. It's really good. This battle is nuts. It is bizonkers. Vale says, "Taylor getting trapped in a locker as her trigger event was the worst thing in the book until now. I hope nothing happens to Gru." Oh boy. Also, I don't know. I think that Taylor does something worse when she puts bugs up Clockblocker's nose and then he freezes them in time and in his eyelids. I think that that's worse than her in the locker. It's never going to stop coming up. That was Taylor's true first villain moment. Yeah, so I had a couple pull quotes that didn't quite fit in with the summary. Ballistic decided he didn't have it in him at the worst possible moment, forcing us to shift roles. Damn him. Yeah. Classic Taylor. Don't waste time. Do it. Wait, this is Gru. Don't waste time. Do it. Times like this call for a certain flourish. The Trickster Gru exchange that I thought was pretty good. Vale says, "Yeah, this chapter was total chaos. It was so much Skitter." Yeah. Oh, man. Like, just all the different things that they do to, like, it's crazy. And the fact that it like obviously the bad thing happens to Gru, but like I kind of feel like they couldn't have hoped for a better outcome. They are fighting like just such a strong team with so many mobility powers. Vale rots junk off with recluse spiders. This is an oopsie, not really a villain. Puts bugs up the nose. Irredeemable villain sent her to the birdcage. Yeah, this outcome was so realistic. Yeah. The thing about the rots junk off with recluse spiders, it's context. It's all context. She was doing that to Long when Long was trying to kill her, and when she thought Long was trying to kill, children, in his own words. And these things happen. He can heal that back. But can Clockblocker, our sweet boy who had done nothing wrong, can he heal back the psychic damage points that were done to him? Can anyone? Can we heal back the psychic damage points that were done to us? See, this wasn't just an affront to Dennis and his person. It was an affront to us as the viewer. Anyway. So yeah, I'll move on from the chapter thoughts to the arc stuff for these two. This arc moves at a crazy speed. I mean, we have done, let's see this. We have done 4. I mean, I split, 3 and 4 because of real world stuff, but we've done 4 different weeks on this arc, and like week 1 is like the Amy confrontation and like the first attack from Mannequin. Week 2 is the Aisha stuff. Week 3 is the Mannequin burn scar fight. Week 4, we're at this point another like a third major. Well, I guess if you consider like all the Mannequin stuff one major fight, but it's kind of 2, especially with the burn scar of it all. So this is like the third major fight already this arc. It's just like constant conflict, and they're getting hurt every time. They lose somebody this time. They lost Aisha before. So 4 weeks and they're down 2 team members. It is bonkers. And the arc started when they started the game. And this is the same first day of the game, I think. Or no, maybe it's the next day? Is it the next day? Hard to tell how much time passes between 5 and 6, but it's either the same day or the next day, which is like, wow. Okay. Next day-ish. But, yes. Vale says, I don't know, though. She rarely puts bugs in any breathing tubes. But she is always hoarding spiders on the juncular region. Yes. The juncular region. But, yes. I guess... So 2 days into this arc, and things have gone quite sideways. The reason I thought it was the same day is because Aisha meets up with Cherish, and then they plan to meet that afternoon. And Aisha had left the meeting that was early in the morning after the rules of the game had been proposed. That was my thought process. But anyway. Yeah, there will be one more major conflict in the arc, but there's like a negotiation sesh, and there's like with heroes, and then there's going to be like a denouement chapter, and then an interlude that is kind of a bridge between the two arcs, 13 and 14. So we got a lot of crazy arc stuff left. Vale says, don't they fight Mannequin on day 2, then Burnscar, then this meeting happens? No, they fight Mannequin on the first day of the game. Taylor is shocked that he's already there the very next morning, and that he has like gotten the body together and learned how to avoid the spider webs. And then he announces to Amy and Bitch at the same time. Then he runs back to Skitter's territory. This is all in the morning. And then at the same time that this is happening, the Aisha chapter happens. And then Burnscar goes to meet up with Mannequin afterward and tags in for him day 1. He had just lost a day at the very start because he only got 2 days to begin with. So that might have been what had confused things. But, yeah. Anyway, characters. Taylor. I pulled this quote here. I didn't want to think about the fact that the drugs I'd taken might be the same ones that he'd used to drug Dinah. I don't think they were by any means, but like, yeah, she's just like totally got to set stuff aside, compartmentalize, if you will, her various problems, and just work with Coil for now. Trickster. I moved to stand myself, but Trickster gestured for me to stay seated. And in the words of Vic, gentlemen as always. And I had pulled out that I thought Trickster is ready to kill in 13.6. Parahuman to the core. Which I guess brings us to Sundancer and Ballistic. Unclear how much Cherish's power affected them, but I think that Sundancer was not ready to kill really from the start, but she was able to be talked into it in the moment. We got I like this little moment from Genesis when she says, I don't have normal sleep patterns. In fact, I need to be awake to recharge. What was this? The little quote about Brooks. So the jerk is useful sometimes. I thought that was funny. She don't like him. And then we got Mannequin. We got he's sporting a body. This was just something I said. He's sporting a body closer to the one that he had at the end of Arc 12, rather than the one with the guns that he had when he attacked Skitter's territory. So he ran away and immediately put the torso back onto the original style set. Because really the only thing that he needs, because I think the torso houses like all of the actual essentials. I think the only part of him that he fully needs is the chest bit. For Coil, I brought out... I had actually pulled out the thing about the... Quite right. No, I think your service this morning has been exemplary. I put that here. I wondered why I didn't have that pulled out, but I did. So for the powers, knowledge, and world building, Vic had pulled out this longer little bit here. She broke the lingering silence. Coil told me that people would leave me alone, or this is Rachel. Coil told me that people would leave me alone if I got powerful enough, if I had allies, if I had money, if I scared my enemies enough. When was this? Before I joined the other Undersiders. He didn't tell me who he was. Left me a phone with some cash, then called me a while later. Fucking words that sounded good. Learned my lesson. She'd spent years on her own, on the streets, with only the company of her dogs, running any time a cop or cape came after her. I itched to ask her if she'd suddenly had an increase in the amount of trouble she faced before she came to Brockton Bay. Trouble that could be precipitated by a certain ambitious supervillain. Yeah, so that bit of Rachel backstory is pretty important. And you know what? I didn't put Rachel in the characters section for some reason. I was a bit rushed on the side stuff. Although I was happy with my 13.6 summary, so I spent a lot of time on that. Anyway, so Rachel, she is obviously going through it because she lost 2 more dogs, but she's like all in still because she wants to get revenge. You know, I said she lost 2 dogs, but she only lost 1. Only Lucy died. The only reason she has 2 instead of 3 dogs in this operation is because they can't ride Bastard yet, and so they only take Bentley and Sirius. That's what I was thinking of. But either way, it's still a big deal. She lost 1 dog, and you know, things have not improved really since Arc 8. She's probably going to lose more dogs before they defeat the 9 if things keep up this way. But like, I feel like Taylor is getting through to her more and more as time passes. She just won't stop reaching out to Rachel. And their relationship is still rocky, but Taylor keeps putting more spiderweb glue on it. She won't stop. Oh, and you know what? I hardly mentioned that Alec was here. He gets another great. He only really gets 1 moment in the fight, but that moment is to donk Shatterbird into the side of a building and then have her crash into the ground. It's kind of funny. Anyway, moving on. I didn't say it in the summary, but Skitter's actually chained onto Bentley with like a carabiner setup for quick release, and I thought that was like really funny and reckless and weird. Even if it's safer than a normal like setup that they have when they're riding the dogs, that just proves how reckless they're being all the time. And this bit about Bentley is Bentley was more of a bruiser than the other 2 dogs, and his front half adding up to almost twice the mass of the rear. It made him weaker at the long-distance leaps than any of the dogs I had ridden thus far, but his powerful upper body also made him a strong climber. It also meant that he had the raw strength to carry 3 of us, and the pair of heavy metal boxes that we'd strapped to his sides. So yeah, we're getting more about Bentley and Sirius because we're going to see them like kind of long term. Genesis looked like a cartoon caricature of a sumo wrestler, grotesquely obese and yellow-skinned with eyes like black buttons. She was hairless, unclothed, and sexless, and her skin was translucent and oily. Through the skin I could make out the vague figure of Shatterbird, pounding on the walls of her stomach, her mouth opening in a scream that didn't reach us. Glass shards were stirring around her. In a blender were cutting at the sides of Genesis's belly. So yeah, that scene, very well said, I think. And then this little quote from Cherish, where she says, "Until you used that sucker teleport on me and shot me." I think sucker teleport is a great description. We have made our way all the way to the audience participation. So our answer here from Vale. The other plan is to throw a welcoming party. It is obvious from the Slaughterhouse 9's entry into the story, them not getting an invite to the Merchants Party, that they are sensitive to being included in things. Put up "Welcome Slaughterhouse 9" signs around the city. Throw a big party for them. Ask Jack to be a keynote speaker to talk his philosophy with the fans. Tell heartwarming stories of how much good they actually do. Like, by appearing evil, they lead so many youngsters to walk a more productive, heroic path. Then when their guard is down, surprise them with the containment foam-filled balloons. Easy win. Bill says, ban teleport for future fights. It's not fair. Yeah, you can't just sucker teleport me like that. I think my plan would have been, like, I know why they wanted to do two things at once, but I think my plan might have been to just go in and do the part where they, like, obliterate Cherish and take her out. And, you know, because she was standing next to Shatterbird, maybe you just kill both of them instead of getting Shatterbird onto your side. Because Shatterbird isn't that good at fighting the other members of the Nine, frankly. So take out those two and then retreat without the more complicated bits of the plan. Oh, and Greg liked Vale's earlier plan, bees. Vale says that missed the even better option. Was it the bees or was it something else? An even better option than bees or containment foam. What if we had bees made of containment foam? Pretty hard to stop, since we already know containment foam is the ultimate power. Oh, Vale says yes, the bees. Well, I say no, not the bees. So, hold up. Amy. Oh, Amy's the plan. Amy's the other plan. Amy is a good plan. Because, Vale's, Amy, can you make bees turn into containment foam? Is a sentence that needed to be in the story. Yeah, exactly. They biologically, like, they sort of combust, like, from being a regular bee with a little, like, biological capsule inside, and then they become a big blob of foam. It's bee cruelty, but we all know that parahuman's powers run on cruelty, so it would probably work better because of the cruelty. Greg says, no, but I can make them gather honey in containment combs. Yes. Bill says, Taylor still paints them with hot sauce. Nostalgia is strong. I think for 13.7, would you have responded to Skitter if you were Legend / Miss Militia? And then I wanted to think up one for 13.8 real quick, if I can. Boop 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 boop. Oh yes, my question for 13.8 is who is more reckless, Skitter or Trickster? Also, I'm putting a question mark at the end of each sentence. Let's delete that one. And just put both. Alright, questions posted. Cool. Well, I think we're ready for next week with that, and let's start getting that sweet, sweet outro music. I'm gonna replay the speed. Oh well, that didn't work out. Replay the speed draws. While we're going out. Vale says, "Who is more blank, Skitter or blank?" Is always Skitter. Thanks as always and take care, says Vale. Thank you, thank you. So the music used in the episode, as it has been, is Infestation by ScarlettXOX. Greg says cheers. Her Twitch can be found twitch.tv/Scarlett_Rogue. Discord link is found in the stream description and YouTube channel description. The author of the work being discussed can be supported, as always, on Patreon at patreon.com/Wildbow. The full text of the work is available online for free at parahumans.wordpress.com. And there are several fan-made audiobooks. The one that is completed is audioworm.rain-online.org. And I also really like Parahumans, an unabridged production, which is what we're using for this arc. And I also have really liked being able to show new listeners the first few arcs of the Worm, a full cast audio production, which is the run by the same person who initially set up the full audiobook, and it's coordinated with a whole bunch of people and takes forever to record, so they only have like 3 or 4 arcs out. Anyway, I'm gonna silence myself, let the rest of the music and the speed draw play out, and have a nice week.